spectacle that is George Santos speaks for itself. This is not a partisan issue, but it is an issue that Republicans need to handle. Clean up your house. And you can start with George Santos.
But they won't. That was House Democratic leader Hakeem Jeffries calling out his colleagues across the aisle, where now 6 House Republicans are demanding George Santos's resignation. Speaker Kevin McCarthy instead appears to remain a key and staunch ally for the defiant, disgraced congressman who said today he would resign only if all 142,000 voters who elected him, based on the lies, directly asked him to. Now there are new questions about Santos's potential campaign finance violations. The New York Times is reporting this about the mysterious independent fund that claimed to be raising money for his campaign. On October 21st, one donor sent $25,000 to a Wells Fargo bank account belonging to Redstone Strategies. 3 months later, where the donor's money went is unclear. The Federal Election Commission said it had no evidence that Redstone Strategies was even registered as a political group, and there do not appear to be any records documenting any of its donors, any of its contributions, or any of its spending. Joining our conversation is former Congresswoman, current MSNBC contributor, Donna Edwards. Donna, you still here? Donna, I mean, I like what Leader Jeffries said. I mean, the Santos scandal speaks for itself. But how do we reckon with a chamber being led by someone who not only won't purge a liar under at least, I think, 5 criminal probes, but shows no signs of sanctioning him, punishing him, doing anything about it?
Well, it may speak for itself, but not loudly enough for Kevin McCarthy to hear it, or for the Republican leadership. I mean, you know, I was always kind of an institutionalist, making sure that members behave in a way that gives credit to the institution. That's one of the ethical responsibilities. Kevin McCarthy knows this, but he's not going to do anything about it. And frankly, as long as George Santos continues as a member of Congress, this scandal will follow him and the Republican leadership, especially Kevin McCarthy, for every single day, because reporters aren't going to let up on it, and nor should they, because what's been detailed, especially, you know, today, the multiple potential campaign finance violations, the outright lying to get yourself a seat into the House of Representatives in the first place. It's reprehensible that in the face of all of this, that Kevin McCarthy refuses to do anything about it. And so, no, none of us, inside or outside, should let them off the hook. We should be raising this every day, that George Santos brings discredit to the United States Congress, as though it can be discredited anymore by this Republican Party, but it will continue to follow them.
You know, it is a natural extension, Donnie, of when you have no standards, when there's no consequence for being Marjorie Taylor Greene or Matt Gaetz, an alleged child sex trafficker, or Paul Gosar, who's so dangerous. His family comes on this program and others to warn everyone about them. But it is clear now that it's not lost on the voters. Yeah. I mean, they rejected Republicans in part because of the Santosification, is that a word?
Yeah, the best thing that can happen to the Democrats is he stays there. You know, an entire legislative body gets branded by a handful of people. The Democrats' problem was, for a while, it was the squad. It was able to shorthand. The Republicans were, well, look at the Democrats and the squad, they're so extreme and whatnot. And the names that you just rifled off, in addition to Kevin McCarthy, the soulless leader right there. And then if you have an out-and-out proven liar in George Santos, you get to continually paint the entire Republican legislative body that way. So let him stay there. Let this be a story that goes on. That's how stupid Kevin McCarthy is. You know, the points he can win by just saying, you know what, we have integrity and whatnot. Like, what do you gain by protecting him other than continually setting yourself up for the branding exercise I was just laying out?
You know, Donna, I think I'm like you, the institutionalist who's so uncomfortable. I think Donnie might be right. I know Donnie's right on the politics of it, but it makes me like clench the idea of just having him there. But I guess the other side of it is, how do you further dishonor this body?
Well, I am, just so undone by having George Santos as a member of a body that I served in. And I think every other member of Congress probably I know on the Democratic side feels that way. I know that there are Republicans clearly who do because they've expressed that. And, I get the politics of having him there, but as it is now, the American public, doesn't rate members of Congress or Congress on the high order of things. I mean, I think someplace below used car salespeople. And so the institution doesn't need any more discrediting. And look, I served on the ethics committee. I think the committee works in a really slow process, but it doesn't have to. It can work more quickly to bring a resolution to the floor to expel George Santos from Congress should he choose not to resign, or should Kevin McCarthy not demand that. And I think that the committee should work expeditiously on this. But more than that, no member should sign on to do legislation with him, should sit in a picture with him, should want to be associated with him, because he is a complete discredit. And sorry for the voters in his congressional district that they voted for someone who lied their way about every single aspect of who they are and who may have violated the law in addition to doing that. And shame on Kevin McCarthy for continuing this absurdity of having this guy as a member of Congress. It's embarrassing.